So now we have rotation, which is all we're doing is we're spinning or we're turning an object. And so for the sake of this video, we're going to focus all of our rotations around the origin. All right, let's get specific about rotation. And so you might see this phrase, this might be 90 degrees counterclockwise around the origin. And so some things we need to know about this. If we're going counterclockwise, we're going the opposite way that the clock moves. And so we need to move this figure this direction. And so in order to do that, we can do some math here. And so we have some different steps here. Our first step is that we're going to switch the X and the Y coordinates. So we're going to put those, just going to switch them so the X becomes the Y and the Y becomes the X. And then after we do that, we're going to multiply that new X coordinate by -1. So here's a way that this is going to look. And so we have these 3 points right here for our triangle. And then here is the step that we're going to do for both coordinates. And so you can see for A, to get to figure out what A prime is, you can see we flipped our X and our Y. So you can see we have 4 and 3, and our X coordinate becomes the opposite for the negative. So let's go ahead and try that same pattern for point B here. And so let's go ahead and flip 5 and 1. So now we have 1 and 5 for B prime. And our new X coordinate becomes the opposite. So let's go ahead and flip C. So we're going to flip C to become, so C prime is going to be 2 and 6. And then we make sure that we do the opposite of our X coordinate 2 to make it -2. So we have some new points here. Let's go ahead now and graph it. And so in your notes, please make sure that you graph this rotation. So now that we figured out what our points are, let's go ahead and graph it to see our rotation. And so we have our original triangle. And I'm going to make sure I'm going to actually label these points A, B, and C. If you haven't already done so, please do that for your notes. Now what we're going to do is we need to rotate it 90 degrees. Counterclockwise means that we're going to the left. So let's go ahead and graph our new points. So our rotation here for point A prime is going to be -4, +3. And so we're going to put that point there and label it A prime. Let's do B prime now. B prime would be, we have 5, so we have, so B is 5, 1. B prime is -1, +5. We plot that point, label it B prime, and let's go to C prime. C prime is -2, so we go to the left 2, and we're going to go up 6 and label that C prime. And we can go ahead and draw in our triangle. So you can see how this rotated around the origin 90 degrees to give us our new triangle here, labeling as A prime, B prime, and C prime. So now what happens is if we take the same triangle and we rotate it clockwise, and so what's happening is we're going to rotate this now down. What we're going to do is similar steps here is we're going to switch our X and Y coordinate, but this time we are going to go ahead and multiply our Y coordinate by -1. So let's go ahead and see what this looks. And we have our original A, B, and C points. So just like we did for the rotation for 90 degrees counterclockwise, to go clockwise, let's go ahead and flip our points. So for B, we're going to flip it 1 and 5, and then let's go ahead and make 5 negative because we're going to multiply that by -1. And the same thing for C. Let's go ahead and flip these points, and we make our Y the opposite. So +6 is now -6. So now that we have our points, here we have A, we have B and C, and we figured out what A prime, B prime, and C prime are. Let's go ahead and plot these points. And so remember, Counterclockwise means we're going to go down. So we're going the way that the clock moves. So let's go and plot some new points here. So for A prime, it's going to be +4. So we're going to the right 4, and now we're going to go down 3 and label that as A prime. B prime, we're going to the right 1 and then down 5. So there's B prime, and then let's go and find C prime. So it's going to be to the right to 2 and then down to -6. So C prime, and let's go ahead and connect our dots and make our triangle. So you can see here that we rotated this triangle 90 degrees around the origin clockwise, and it gives us our new image here, our rotated image. So now what happens if we're going to rotate this 180 degrees around the origin? So the biggest difference here is that there is no switch of the X and the Y coordinates, but this time all we're going to do is find the opposite of X and Y to find our new coordinates. So in order to do this, so we see that here's our example for point A. So we're not switching anything. So we're not the X and the Y, they don't switch places. But this time the only thing that changes are that both points become the opposite. So let's go ahead and do that for B. B prime is going to be -5, -1, and C prime is going to be -6, -2. So now let's go ahead and rotate this triangle around the origin 180 degrees. And so let's go ahead and label our points now. And so we have A prime would be -3, -4. We label that as A prime. B prime would be -5, -1. We're going to label that as B prime. And then C prime would be -6, -2. And let's go ahead and draw in our triangle. If you're hearing birds in the background, that's correct. My two little birdies are making all kinds of noise. But you can see now we have rotated this image 180 degrees around the origin. So you can see for the rotation of 180 degrees, it's actually jumping 2 quadrants to get there. And we can also say that's 180 degrees the other way. So it doesn't matter which way we go for this one. But the biggest thing is, remember, there's no switch between the X and the Y coordinates like we did other times. And that this time, all we're doing is we're figuring out the opposite of X and Y to get our new prime points.